So, what we're looking at here is there's no question that the systemic child abuse in the British establishment, through the political establishment, through the entertainment establishment. And I think that, what was happening with the likes of Jimmy Savile and Rolf Harris, Max Clifford, and probably a few more still to come, with the showbiz personalities being sort of hung out to dry, they were hoping, and are probably still hoping, to protect some of the key players in the political establishment. There's a guy by the name of Ben Fellows who has given statements under oath that he was sexually harassed and abused by Kenneth Clarke, who's just stood down from Parliament and out of office yesterday, I believe, as well. So the political establishment now are very much under the spotlight. And I think that what we're going to see in the coming weeks is this play out. It's not going to be pretty. It really is going to be the underbelly of British society being exposed. As for it not being discussed in Australia, well, there may be a number of reasons for that. One might be misplaced loyalty to the British establishment, but could it also be that actually there's a dark underbelly to Australian politics as well? And they're hoping that by not reporting on it, they can actually keep the attention away from themselves. I'm not suggesting that that is the case, but, when there is deliberate effort to suppress something as significant as this, one actually has to ask the questions why. You may well be absolutely correct. I mean, I think that is probably more the minority, more the very top end. But, what we've got to be careful of, because the establishment would love that. The establishment would love the alternative community to literally take this into the extreme realms of conspiracy.
Mhm.
Or
But surely
Satanism.
when we're looking at when we are looking at Jersey Island and what has been happening in revealed in more and more in Broadmoor, that there's certain lines of, I mean, at least perhaps the murder, torture, necrophilia aspect sort of really raising its head there.
Well, it does, and Warren, you are probably very right. I mean, there's an absolutely superb documentary online that I would encourage your listeners to seek out, and it's called "Was Jimmy Savile a Wizard?" And it makes compelling or puts forward compelling evidence to suggest that this guy was using the Crowley-esque magic to effectively control or maybe even hypnotize his victims. And once again, as many people listening to this will know, we all have access to the same universal tools. What it comes down to is how we use them. And it's just like any tool in the physical realm. It can be used as a tool or it could be used as a weapon. And there is no question that those who have participated in these practices are using tools that are available to each and every one of us, but they've used them for self-gratification. It's service to self versus service to others. So I think that this is probably something that is going to unfold in the coming weeks and months. But I think we've got to be careful not to push it too far, because we've now got a case where the British public can no longer dismiss this as conspiracy. It is fact,
Hmm.
absolute fact. And now what we've got to do is keep pushing, keep nudging this. The role of the alternative media is keep taking them to the next step. So we may know what's at the on the top landing, but the vast majority of the people in the general public don't. And what's on the top landing may be just too much for them to take right now. So what we got to do, what the role of the alternative media right now, is to keep pushing the mainstream and keep saying, okay, you've got this far. Now what's on the next step? What's the next stage of this? And then when we got them to that step, take them again to the next step, so that you may well be very right that once we uncover, the occult belief system that these guys were utilizing, like creating the adrenaline rush in their victims, and then in some cases certainly killing the victims and drinking the blood because of the power that is supposedly gained by drinking the blood of a freshly killed victim who went through massive fear before the final moment, and then benefiting from the adrenaline that was pushed into the bloodstream. I mean, I think that we are going to certainly at some point in the not too distant future be having that kind of discussion in the mainstream. What's also interesting, by the way, is that new legislation is being rushed through to provide a wall of privacy around the royal family. Because, as I said earlier, the relationship between the honours list and the sex offenders register is now looking a little bit too coincidental for comfort.
Without creating sort of like fear, because this is not the intent. And as you know, Kalki goes a bit more into the esoteric underlying realities. It's more that, in terms of when you hear the terms a black lodge or a dark lodge, it's an aspect of the world ego serving those perfidious energies and intelligences that, in essence, keep the collective in a state of involution by serving their miscreant and self-serving powers, so to speak. So basically, potentially what we are seeing, and this should be perhaps expected in the light of the great changes which are happening upon the planet, is that you're seeing like a rock being turned over here in terms of that. And what I would, part of the reason which you hit it on the head before is like I would like to get perhaps people to say is how do we unturn that rock without hatred or without revenge or, without in such a way that we could turn that rock over, so to speak, and dismantle it in such a way that we can actually assist the process rather than having it turn into a bigger and bloodier mess, so to speak.
Absolutely. I absolutely concur. And that's why it's so important just to push this one step at a time. Because, obviously what the establishment are trying to do right now is actually sanitize the unthinkable. If we look at some of the discussions that are taking place right now, I mean, there is an increasing push for euthanasia, amongst the seriously ill, the elderly. In Belgium, earlier this year, the law was passed giving doctors permission to euthanize seriously ill children. I mean, these are aspects of life that a generation ago would have been considered absolutely unthinkable. And now what we're seeing is this being sanitized. And obviously Hollywood and the media are being used to help this process. Films like Hunger Games, which attempts to effectively sanitize or normalize, children killing children. So, we can see how those dark forces are trying to engineer their dominion. But this is a tremendous opportunity for humanity. I mean, never has humanity perhaps had such an opportunity before. And the reason it's an opportunity now is because the level of awareness amongst humanity is much greater collectively than perhaps it was when maybe there may have been a lesser opportunity in the past. And so that is why I think the key element and the message that I really am trying to get across to people is, look, it is time to stand up and be counted. It is time to participate in bringing about the changes that we all know we need to see. Yes, of course, it has to be done multidimensionally, and I always maintain that, it is absolutely crucial that we put some time and effort into visualizing the type of future that we would very much like to see without having an absolute existential commitment to our vision of the future. Because if we have too much of an existential commitment to that vision, we may actually be limiting what may manifest. So let's push it to the bounds as far as we can perceive, but leave leave the window open for something even more wonderful to manifest. But then at the same time, we've also got to participate in on the physical, empirical, material realm, which is where we're all incarnated right now, and we've got to make that contribution. So it is multidimensional, and as you know, Warren, and many people listening to this know, we have a lot of help. We have a lot of help here, so we just got to keep pushing this, getting it to come out in the mainstream media. The more it comes out, the more people start to wake up. And I know you and I are experiencing exactly the same, where we're having conversations with random people now who see this, and are looking for information as to, okay, what can we do about it? What can we do next?